Coming up, we recap episodes 3 and 4 of The Last Dance. We tell you why the 2020 MLB season is a matter of when, not if. And John, Mike, and Jimmy of the Hotheadz podcast come on to break down the NFL draft. It's April 27th. Welcome to the show. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the show. CT. Dime, babe.
What's up, Manny? How's it going? Happy Monday.
It's Monday. I wouldn't have known it was Monday had you not just told me, probably. Every day, every day just bleeds into the next day. It all feels the same,
This did kind of feel like a Monday, though.
Well, it felt like a Monday because The Last Dance was yesterday.
That's right.
So you kind of know that going into it. And
First
you have like an actual job, so that probably feels Monday-ish.
Yeah, everybody at my job decided to hold all their meetings today, so
all the meetings.
A lot of the meetings.
Any meetings for the rest of the week?
Yeah, a lot of meetings for the rest of the week as well.
Seems like you guys do a heck of a lot of meetings, man.
We do. Yes, we do.
That's good. It's good to meet. It's good to talk.
They haven't seen me like this though since nobody has seen me like this except people that watch the show.
So it's no video conferencing, it's all audio?
All audio.
Wow, okay.
We're told not to use video because it eats away at the bandwidth that everybody's on the same network, so we're connected through like a VPN. So we're told not to use video feeds for anything.
Ah, gotcha.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So,
yes.
Oh, you want some headlines?
We got some headlines, guys. The NBA is looking at May 8th for a return to workouts. So that is less than 2 weeks away.
It sounds like across the board, like there's almost a bit of a consensus that they want to start loosening social distancing restrictions. Like I've heard a couple of people already tell me that they're gonna go that their jobs are gonna start asking them to go back like pretty soon. Which I don't know how I feel about it yet, but
my job is actually starting to put that message out there that soon they're gonna start opening like the building again for people to come back. But since my job has been able to operate completely remotely, they're leaving it up to us. So okay. I'm probably not gonna, return to the office anytime soon. But you're right. It is becoming like a thing now. The Ball brothers, the infamous Ball brothers, and we all know the Ball brothers.
LaMelo,
the big Ball brand. They will be joining Rock Nation. So Jay-Z does it again, man. He grabs talent. He will turn them into superstars.
Oh, sorry.
Illuminati, baby. Aaron Gordon, a.k.a. twin brother of Aaron Judge.
Baby brother.
He drops a diss track towards Dwayne Wade about the 9 out of 10 score he received after jumping over 7'2" Taco Fall. I haven't heard the song, but I'll promise. Here's what I think will happen once I finally listen to the song, which I plan to do after we get off this call. I think that I won't wait until the Dwayne Wade reference comes up, and I won't finish listening to the song because I'm pretty sure it's trash. So,
agree. And by the way, the diss track should be made to the Black Panther. What's his name in real life? You know what his name is, because he had no idea. I had no idea what the fuck he was doing. So
well, the diss track should be towards the NBA because they put him as a or whoever organizes the dunk contest, because they put him as a judge.
Right.
And they got to cut that shit out. I think
he should have won. I agree. He should have won. It's a dunk contest. B, you're putting out a diss track to Dwayne Wade. Come on, he's bored.
Yep. Again, I always feel like the NBA is more about the story, not like the right thing. Like they'll give the MVP to a guy that averages a triple double across the season, but not to a guy that averaged way more points and way more assists and was less than maybe like 1 or 2 rebounds to average a triple double. I'm talking about James Harden and Russell Westbrook a couple years ago.
Boom, dropping names, man.
That's right,
Welcome
man.
to the show podcast. That's what we do here,
That's
son.
what this brain is for.
Ooh. Go on.
All right. David Ortiz thinks the punishment was too harsh for the Red Sox.
Okay.
And I don't agree because I don't think the Red Sox are completely innocent. They got caught doing something they weren't supposed to do against the rules. And I don't think the punishment was all that harsh to begin with. If you take into consideration that Alex Cora was fired or suspended because of what he did with the Astros, he's not even getting punished for anything with the Red Sox. So I got to disagree with him, but I know where he's coming from because he probably knows as well as anybody that the whole league is probably doing something similar. That still doesn't make the Red Sox completely innocent. They got caught, whatever.
I think he's going to side with the Red Sox no matter what. So,
yeah, that guy.
And he's a cheater, so, you know.
What?
You heard what I said.
I know. We don't gotta go down that road.
Shall we go down that road?
And the Red Sox and the Yankees will be facing off. They made it to the Final Four in the Dream Bracket. Follow the Dream Bracket on MLB.com. Yankees versus Astros went to 7 games, 12 innings on the 7th game. A-Rod did get ejected. Shout out to A-Rod, my favorite baseball player of all time.
There's your mention.
And Yogi Berra hits a walk-off to send the Yankees to the Final Four against the Red Sox. I think we saw this coming. We called it last time. They're two of the most historic franchises. I'm pretty sure the Dodgers. I haven't even looked at the Final Four. I should have probably done that for these headlines, but I'm pretty sure the Dodgers are in there.
It's a beautiful thing, and we already know what the outcome's going to be. The Yankees are going to win this thing, and you know,
they probably will because the people that run MLB look.
Oh God.
For those. No, you picked the perfect time for me to bring this up, but the people who play MLB The Show out there, you're gonna tell me that MLB the organization of MLB isn't on the Yankees, crotch?
No.
Because look, just so I could tell you this, there's a Reggie Jackson out, there's a Curtis Granderson Yankee edition out, there's a Jason Giambi out, there's a Jorge Posada out. There's a Mariano Rivera. There's another guy. You just give me. Oh, there's just a bunch of Yankee players that you can get just by playing the game. A bunch of them.
It's because the Yankees are the greatest organization in sports, man. That's all.
All we got is like a 76 overall veteran Ted Williams, and then like an 81 overall George Brett. That's all we got. Like wait, is it George Brett? We got one of those guys. I don't know, but we don't. They're on the Yankees' cock, man. That's all I'm saying.
Wow.
They're on it, man. There's too many Yankee players. There's just too many.
All right. Okay.
Trust me, man. Trust me. You don't play the game. I play the game. There's a lot. You could build a good roster just by sticking to Yankee players.
Is Reggie Jackson a Yankee in this?
Yes,
or
he's a Yankee.
Okay.
99 overall, the highest overall you can get in the game. Reggie Jackson. Oh, there's the best card in the game is the 99 overall Mickey Mantle. But he's hard to get.
One of the greatest players of all time. I mean,
he really is. Yeah, I'm not denying.
That organization is just something else, man. I just look up at the sky sometimes and think about it, just like this. It's a beautiful thing. All right.
That's all I got, man.
Those are your headlines. All right.
Yeah.
All right. So why don't we just move on to the first topic, which is the Last Dance recap. Last night, you had episodes 3 and 4 go out. Episode 3 focusing primarily on Dennis Rodman. Episode 4 primarily on Phil Jackson. CT, what was your takeaway? What did you think of these 2 episodes? And, what are your thoughts?
I thought that the Dennis Rodman thing was so funny and great. It had a little bit of everything. And then when the Phil Jackson episode started, I was kind of like, oh man, we're about to get into Phil Jackson's past, and then you find out the type of guy he was, and then still I was kind of like, we're really gonna get into this. But that episode was the quickest one. It was like by the time it was over, I was left like wanting more.
Yeah.
So I thought they were really good episodes. It kind of goes back to what I was saying last week when we were talking about Jordan and what he is and what his legacy is, and how I think that was just like the perfect storm and right timing and right organization, right place, right time. Because like for that Dennis Rodman stuff to happen, it would never happen today in the NBA.
Yeah.
Like that a player taking a leave of absence just to go to Vegas just to fuck around, that would never happen in
Hell
any
no.
sport today.
No.
And for that to happen on the biggest sports team in the world at the moment, with the biggest basketball star, biggest sports star, probably the biggest celebrity at the time, um, I thought that that was very interesting, and I'm just loving the nostalgia of all of it. Even though I
Yeah.
didn't watch it as an adult and or like as a teenager at the time, just hearing the music and seeing like the camera and the like the footage is just like something really nostalgic about it that I'm loving. So I think the series is very great. I thought the best part was them playing Michael Jordan. I mean, them playing Michael Jordan's audio describing the whole
Oh
Vegas
yeah. Yeah.
thing. And then the part where he got to listen to Isaiah Thomas's
Oh my God. Yeah.
explanation for the thing. I'm like, there's just something about hearing Jordan talk and then hearing him like tell him like, I know Isaiah's just gonna make excuses. It's like he's so smart. Like he doesn't. It just seems like he doesn't buy into the bullshit. So
Yeah. And just
yeah,
seeing that natural reaction, like, oh, it's gonna be bullshit. I don't even need to listen to this. And then he
yeah,
was like, fine, I'll listen to it. And then as he's playing, as it's playing, you see him react to it. That's not that you don't really get to see Jordan behaving that way anymore. At least since he's played. When he was a player, you got to you got to experience him more, but he had a reputation of being pretty strict and all about the win, which he is. But
yeah.
in this series, you're seeing more of a personality, and I'm kind of glad that he's getting himself out there a little bit more, and we're getting to see him. And a
And
lot of the things that you believe about him turn out to be true. Like yeah, he does not take shit from anybody. He doesn't give a
yeah,
fuck.
yeah.
But
And
yeah.
I really it's like so weird. Like before all this documentary came out, I would watch Jordan highlights and I'd watch his post game interviews, and there was just something about the way that he talked that just seemed to perfectly handle the media. It's like he didn't give anything more. He didn't really make excuses that I know of. I didn't watch his whole career. For any Jordan fanboy out there, or maybe like LeBron fanboy that's trying to prove me wrong, I didn't watch his whole career. But from what I did watch, it just seemed like he said the right amount of stuff. The media loved him.
Mhm.
And one thing that stuck out to me in last night's episode is that he pointed out to a specific reporter and thanked him. He thanked him for the article that he wrote about the Bulls or about Michael Jordan like the previous day. And it
Mhm.
just stuck out to me because like today there's all these sources of media like Twitter, Instagram, all this shit, all this crazy shit, Bleacher Report, and anytime these guys get asked about it, something that half the time they put themselves in that position to get asked about it, their answers are always like, I don't pay attention to that stuff. I'm about the game. I'm about this. When that's complete bullshit. It's just complete bullshit. Uh, and they're always just like denying it, acting like it's the media trying to turn against them.
Right.
So it just felt like for refreshing to hear like the best basketball player like admit that he reads articles. He's looking for people to say something about him so that he can prove them wrong. So I thought that was like really interesting.
And then, so the only criticism I have about the documentary is I watch it with my wife, who has probably, well, the only time she's ever watched a basketball game is probably when we went to a Knicks game like 10 or 15 years ago. And you know how that went, probably.
They lost,
Um,
probably.
probably.
Yeah.
15 years to the, yeah, probably they probably lost. Anyway,
Yeah.
so she doesn't really know what happened during this whole time. The one criticism I have is that they do time jumps throughout the show, but it's not really specified. Like in one scene, Dennis Rodman is a Chicago Bull, and the next scene he's with the Detroit Pistons, and it's not it's not obvious. Like this is before they went through the whole bad boy Piston era and all that stuff. And she
Yeah.
was like, "Wait, is Dennis Rodman with the Bulls or with the Pistons?" And I'm like, "No, he started off with the Pistons, was later traded to the Spurs, and then he went to the Bulls or whatever." So stuff like that was a little confusing. At times they give you a timeline and they jump back and forth, but sometimes it's not clear what's going on. There was
Yeah.
another moment where it was when Michael Jordan was facing off against the Lakers in 91, I think, the first championship. And they showed footage of Magic Johnson versus the Bulls in 93 to explain what happened in 91. And that was confusing to me.
Yeah.
Things like that I didn't like so much, but that's nitpicking. Overall, I love the show. I can't wait for next week. I wish it was longer, like you said. I almost wish it was on Netflix. I could just binge it. I think
Yeah.
I'd
I would
stay
have.
up. I'd stay up all night and just watch the whole thing probably.
I would have definitely binge watched it by now. And it's funny you mentioned because I thought the same thing last night. I don't know what scene in particular it was, but there's certain scenes that they put into it, and it's almost just like to stroke Jordan's ego a little bit.
Yeah.
Like they'll put a highlight of him like calling out the announcer at one point, but they'll just mention that he scored 40 or 50 that night, and then they just keep the overall story moving. Like the
Right.
overall story, they just keep it moving. And I'm like, what was that random side
Exactly. Yeah.
conversation?
Like the
for
episode
that?
will be about Dennis Rodman. We're talking about Dennis Rodman. Then all of a sudden we're getting Jordan highlights for like 15
Yeah.
minutes. And all
Yeah.
the highlights are awesome. So I'm cool with it. It's just
Oh yeah.
sometimes it's not clear and it's a little confusing. And I wonder if them deciding to release it a little bit earlier is the reason why. Like I wonder if there would have been another cut for it to be more clear and all that stuff.
Make a good point. Yeah, you make a good point.
Little nitpick. I still like
Yeah,
it though.
we're nitpickers. What I'll tell you what I do love though, like that I caught on like in the last episode, but I realized it's been going on the whole time. When they come back from commercial break, they'll give you like a little snippet of like an interview that was going on during the time, like of that year. And it'll just be like a quick thing, like Phil Jackson not knowing what his future is like, or Jordan saying that he's definitely not coming back, or like one of these ESPN reporters on the sideline like telling you like what's going on at the moment in 98, 97, 98, whatever. And I like that part a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a well produced show. I'm enjoying it. I wonder if the ratings went up a little bit last night. Can't wait for next week.
How many episodes is it?
I think it's 10 overall. So it's 5 weeks. So next week will
Man.
be week 3, then there's 2 more weeks left.
I just keep thinking they keep going back, like laying the groundwork for the last season, but they still haven't gotten to like the second
baseball.
championship, the third, the baseball, the allegations about gambling or whatever, his
Right.
dad passing away. Steve Kerr, I'm sure has its own episode, like in the thing.
The punch or whatever.
Yeah.
I wonder if they're gonna touch on that about the conspiracy theory that Jordan didn't really retire, that he was really suspended, and he.
I think they
left.
are.
I hope
I think
they do.
are because I think they're gonna touch on that and the whole punch story because Steve Kerr is in there for a reason.
Yeah.
And I think that they're gonna have to touch on it because they touched on the whole Dennis Rodman thing, admitting that he had to be pushed, admitting that he felt some type of way when Scottie Pippen came back. And I feel like they have to touch on all those little stories. I thought the whole Isaiah Thomas walking off the court story was pretty interesting.
Oh my God.
I had never known that about the Celtics. Like, what did you think about his perspective versus Jordan's perspective?
I agree with Jordan. I think Isaiah Thomas was, for full disclosure, if this is the first time you're listening or watching the Welcome to the Show podcast, stream, or whatever you want to call it, I'm a Knicks fan. So I went through a period where Isaiah Thomas was running the Knicks, was the head coach of the Knicks, and that's when the New York Knicks got destroyed, essentially. So I have a bad taste in my mouth when it comes to Isaiah Thomas. So let me just put that out there, full disclosure. But the Bad Boy Pistons were, I'm not going to say that I remember them because it was the late 80s. I was a little kid. But I remember hearing stories about the Bad Boy Pistons, watching classic games. That ESPN 30 for 30 came out. And that team reminds me so much of the Knicks of the 90s because they were willing to throw down with anybody. They were a badass team, essentially. But that story of the Pistons not shaking the Bulls' hands had gone on for a long time. And not until yesterday had I really considered, had this been done before. And Isaiah Thomas brought the Celtics as an example. But then he kind of made it seem like, oh, that's what happens. You walk off the court. You don't have to shake the other team's hands. But then it's true what Jordan says. All the times that the Bulls lost to the Pistons, they stood there and they shook their hands. So at least give them that respect. Now, if the Pistons were facing the Celtics and the Pistons slaughtered the Celtics, and the Celtics slaughtered the Pistons and the Pistons want to walk off the court, I get it because they did that to you. So it's like payback.
Yeah.
The Bulls didn't do that to you. I don't think I've ever seen another team do that before. So fuck Isaiah Thomas.
Yeah. I might have sided with Isaiah Thomas had I not seen the clips of Jordan and them shaking hands when they got beat 2 years in a row, like after all the the dirty way that the Pistons played. So yeah, I agree.
Yeah, that's all I'm saying. CT. So great episodes. If you're not watching, if you haven't caught up on it, go on the ESPN app, ESPN Plus, and it should all be there. Let's move on to the next topic, which is MLB, the return of MLB is a matter of when now, not if. So over the last few weeks, I think we've been talking a lot about how we feel like baseball's probably not going to happen this year, and it seems like with um, with the way things are kind of unfolding now, there was a study that came out last week in which they found that the mortality rate was a lot less than what was expected. In terms of the coronavirus, and all the numbers are down across the board. In New York City, ventilators are down, hospitalization is down, deaths are down. So the social distancing restrictions are finally taking effect. Hopefully it's something better. Hopefully it's the virus like mutating itself and dying off or some shit. That would be amazing. But
Yeah.
I don't want to get too ahead of myself. But the point is, um, people are starting to consider going back to work. I talked to a friend today who said that his barber called him today and said that he's gonna start opening up his shop soon, but he's only gonna have 3 barbers at a time and he's only going by appointments, whatever. So things are starting to unfold a little bit, and even Governor Cuomo, said that he anticipates baseball to return to Yankee Stadium and Citi Field this summer, and it just sounds like there was an article on ESPN where Jeff Passan, who we all know has the in with Rob Manfred because he always has the messages, said that basically it is a matter of when now, not a matter of if. So I wanted to throw it out there, CT. I just said a lot of words. um, so when baseball returns, because it's not a matter of if anymore, how do you envision it working?
Um, I think the no fans is definitely going to be a thing.
Okay.
I didn't know that it would be back in Citi Field and Yankee Stadium. I thought that we were just going to stick to the warmer or like the states that haven't been hit so hard, like Arizona and those
Mm-hmm.
states like down there. Um, I see it just being kind of a mess. Mostly the players, I think, won't want to cooperate as much, probably, if there's all these restrictions. Um, and I see it just being really, really forced. I kind of see it being forced. I feel like we're gonna try to compete with the NBA coming back and stuff. Maybe try to get things rolling. Um, I don't see how this thing goes smoothly, to be honest with you.
I think if we look to Taiwan as an example, it's possible that it can go smoothly. In Taiwan, I wrote an article every week. I feel like I do this, but go to calltothepen.com where I said how MLB should use Taiwan as an example for how to when they return, and what they're doing in Taiwan with the CPBL is anybody that's coming into the building for a game gets scanned. They have like a temperature scanner, I guess, and it can capture everybody's temperature at the same time. Anybody that's who's and I've mentioned this on this podcast before. Anybody whose temperature is above a certain level, they get sent home. From what I understand, they have to quarantine for like 2 weeks if their temperature is up to a certain level. So those players won't be able to play. And from what I understand so far, that hasn't happened yet. And they've been playing for 2 weeks now. So it seems to be working out pretty well. The stadiums are empty. They're using cardboard fans and stuff like that. They had like one game I saw they had a dog like behind home plate. Like they're kind of having fun with it. Some umpires wear masks. The manager sometimes wears a mask. People on the bench are wearing masks or whatever. Um, and what's the last thing?
Let me ask you
Oh,
something.
in
Go
terms
ahead.
of in terms of the media, when there's like those press conferences that say there's a walk off home run, let's say it's fuck it, let's use Alex Rodriguez for the sake of this example. CT, for you, I'll do it for you. Let's say Alex Rodriguez hits a walk off home run, and at the end of the game, you have the media bring him up to the podium to have a little post game interview. That's still continuing, but instead it's virtual. So he'd be staring into a screen where all the media personalities are there, and he can answer questions. So I think it's possible to do it. I think the problem comes is if and when somebody does test positive or does have a high temperature, how do you replace that player? Because you don't have a minor league system to tap into. Do you bring in your entire 40-man roster into the stadium, or do you have them like in a location near the stadium just in case? Stuff like that is where I think it can get messy. Other than that, I think it can work. Um,
But
you know,
what does and correct me if I'm wrong.
You're
Just
wrong.
tell me I don't know what I'm talking about. But what does taking temperature really prove if some people carry the virus and are walking around with no symptoms, no high temperature? You know, what
Well,
isn't there a better way to
yeah, well,
do this?
fortunately, the way that they got this information last week, where they feel like the mortality rate is lower than it was expected, was through that antibody test. They did a controlled study of a certain amount of people and determined that it was millions of people in the city of New York that had the coronavirus. Many of them were asymptomatic. Um, I think from that, like 20% experience symptoms. Don't quote me on it. You can go back and look at it. Just Google it. So maybe apparently this antibody test can be scaled up. It's effective. It's pretty accurate. Maybe these teams can buy a certain number of antibody tests, and each player gets tested to see if they had the antibody, then they've had the virus before. They're probably not going to get it again. If you get tested and you don't have the antibodies, that means you haven't tested positive for coronavirus. Then maybe those are the players that you have to focus on making sure that they don't have a temperature. And if they're not, or maybe you test them weekly or something. I don't know, man.
Well,
I'm not an expert. I'm sweating here. You asked me this question. So much pressure.
it's funny because I just started sweating too because I keep my fan off, as I've mentioned in seasons 1 and 2 of the Welcome to the Show podcast. Usually it was warmer weather when we've recorded those episodes, and I would always mention I keep my fan off so that the background noise does not come into the mic. That's how dedicated I am to this show.
It's dedication.
I'm sweating over here. I have a lot of body hair now, as you can see, and the shit is not easy. But here's another question. I read in that ESPN article that it's going to come down to money because they're saying that although viewership ratings through TV and streaming is going to be through the roof, that's still not going to be enough to cover the operating cost of keeping these stadiums open and having players in them to play. So if there's not money to go around to pay players and pay the owners and all this, if there's not money going around, is this really the right time to bring it back?
I think it would suck for the sport if they let money get in the way of playing games. Now for small market teams, I understand. If the operating costs far outweigh what it's gonna,
what they make, what the revenue that they make from TVs and stuff,
then I get it. Then we have something to argue about. But if it's gonna come down to a player wanting 100% of his salary, most of the time I side with players. I'm gonna side against the players. I'm sorry. You're in a situation now where everybody's losing money. It's not just the players. The teams, the owners, they're losing money as well. So if that's what it comes down to, then I'm not for it. But like I said, if it affects the small market teams negatively, then I understand. And in that case, then you're gonna have to figure something else out. Then maybe you do share stadiums. Maybe the Rays and the Marlins can share a stadium or something. You have to figure something out because
now
I know that it's just baseball. It's not life or death or whatever, but I think it would be a good sign for the country. It would show progress. It would show, look, we're moving forward. We're moving on from this.
Yeah.
We're stronger than this, yada yada yada. And at the same time, you don't want that canceled season, in my opinion, it just does. I don't want to look back and see 2016 canceled due to coronavirus, or I don't know. I feel like there's enough money to go around, man. It could be figured out.
Well, you're right that everybody's going to be losing money, but if it comes down to players versus owners,
I'm always going to side with players, but
I always usually side with players too. But
what I'm trying to say is, if a player wants 100% of his salary, if Mike Trout goes out there, and he's not going to say this, if he goes out there and says, I want my $40 million, I'm going to say, too bad, Mike Trout. Like, you didn't play for a month. The TV contracts are, you're not getting paid. The owners aren't getting paid 100% of what they thought they were going to make. So you're going to have to take a pay cut, man. That's just how business works. Sorry, man.
And then I agree that seeing baseball on TV, seeing the NBA coming back and all that stuff would would make me feel better that we are moving past this. But on the other side of that coin, for the people who are already going against the social distancing rules or recommendations, they're going to see baseball and NBA back on TV, and those guys are going to be out to the beach the next day.
Truth. That's
in a
true.
parade, dancing in their underwear. So I almost feel like the NBA coming back is going to be the beginning of the end of social distancing. Like, people are just not going to want to do it no more. They're going to look to see the NBA's back. Like, what the hell are we doing? Like, on Facebook, I saw earlier today, someone was wishing that a government official or a cop would tell him to put a mask on or his gloves because he thinks it's unconstitutional or something. Like,
oh my God.
So it's, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I get it, but it's just like,
do you think that bringing back baseball and the NBA will bring us back to another wave of cases because people are no longer social distancing?
I think I said before on this podcast, until there's a vaccine, that we're going to live this way. Like the social distancing restrictions are going to be loosened, and there's going to be an influx. There's going to be an increase in cases, unless we can extensively start testing people and like really control it. Like you got tested, you tested negative, or you have the antibodies. I don't know. Slap a wristband on them with a barcode or some shit, and you're allowed to proceed with your life. I don't think. The thing is, I think that, and we're gonna have to cut this short pretty soon, but I'm starting to fall on the side of we're not going to be able to sustain this for much longer. I think at some point life is going to have to go on, and I think that more information is coming out where I think a larger and a larger group of people, where it's known that a larger and a larger group of people would probably be okay if they went back out into the world. I think there's just going to be a small portion of the population, and as more data comes out and we know who exactly those people are going to have to quarantine themselves, and people are going to have to stay away from them until a vaccine comes out.
Yeah.
Because I know I've already, in our family, there's been a number of people who have tested positive with COVID-19, and a pretty big chunk of them are asymptomatic.
Yeah.
So I don't think, for now, I think we have to continue this until we get more information, keep the social distancing restrictions up, be as cautious as possible. But at some point in the near future, I would say maybe by July or something, that's just a random number, something's going to have to give. At that point, you'd hope we'd have enough information, more testing, something.
You heard it here first. July.
Oh shit,
guys. Get ready.
Don't quote me. I'm not a doctor. I'm not an official.
July is a long way away, though.
I know. I just looked down and I saw it's April 27th, man.
Yeah, I did the same thing.
Oh my God, still
man.
2 months away, man.
Baseball.
All right. Let's transition out of this. We're going to talk to the guys from the Hotheadz podcast, Mike and John. I should have reversed that. We're going to talk to Mike and John from the Hotheadz podcast about the NFL draft. We're going to break it all down for you guys, so stick around. We'll be back right after this.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. We're back with the Hotheadz, Jim, Mike, and John. Jimmy or Jim? What do you prefer?
Jim, man. Jimmy. Depends on if you're talking to Mike or John.
All right. So the NFL draft just concluded this past weekend. I thought it was produced extremely well, except for all the sob stories, and I felt like it just dragged on at some points. But anyway, that's besides the point.
Yes.
We're primarily a New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania-based podcast, so let's focus on the Giants and the Jets. So Giants first, because I'm a Giants fan. What's your take, guys? How did the Giants do in this draft?
Mike, I'll let you lead off because I have some very contrarian opinions about this draft for the Giants.
You know, there was a lot of people that were hoping that Isaiah Simmons was going to go at number 4. And, you can't argue with it. He's a game changer. I was one of them. But, I mean, if you're going to go tackle, it's something that we need. You need to protect the assets. You spent high draft capital, very high draft capital on Saquon Barkley and Daniel Jones. And if you can't protect them, if you can't open up holes for Saquon, what is the use of having them? And I kind of said this point to John earlier today. At this point, what would you say is closer to being finished, the offense or the defense? Probably the offense, right?
I get that point. My point is the Giants last year went into the next to last or last drive of the game with the lead 6 times. Lost all 6 of those games. Not because the offense failed to convert points, because the defense failed to get off the field and get the ball back to the offense to run out the clock. You get a guy, in my opinion, Isaiah Simmons is going to be a playmaker for years down the road, right? You get a guy like that you could plug into your defense. He can anchor your defense, captain your defense, give some leadership to a rudderless crew for the last, since the last Super Bowl title. What's it been? We're almost a decade now since this defense has had any direction. You had the chance to go out and get a guy that's a proven winner, played in 3 national championship games. He's been, they were debating on what to put on his card at the combine because he excelled at 3 different positions. He was an edge rusher, a linebacker, and a defensive back. And when he was asked about it, he's like, look, I do what's asked of me by the team. I play defense. And that's the kind of guy you want on your team, especially a team as directionless as the Giants have been for years. Now, don't get me wrong. Thomas is going to be a mauler at left tackle, but points weren't really the problem last year. It was keeping points off the board. And when you got offenses like Philly, what Dallas just did, and basically saying, we're just going to have a boat race every week. And then, even Washington is putting pieces in place to have a high-scoring offense. Whether they're doing it the right way or not, that's for a different time, different place. But, the fact that we're going to have – he's drafted 8 corners over the last 3 drafts. How many have worked out? I think Isaiah Simmons was the pick. I don't hate the Thomas pick. I hate Thomas over Simmons. That was my initial issue with the pick.
And correct me if I'm wrong, though. So this is the whole versatile defensive player. He might be like the first guy with no position, just move him around, right? This is the guy we're talking about. Who ended up drafting him?
Arizona at 8.
Arizona ended up taking him.
Now, I feel like last year's football season was years ago. I don't even really remember all this stuff that went on, especially on the Giants team. But weren't Saquon Barkley's numbers down last year?
Oh, he missed 4 games too.
Yeah, he had a high ankle sprain that normally knocks a normal running back out for almost 8 weeks.
He was back in 4, and he still went over 1,000 for the season. His receptions were down significantly, but that was because of the play calling. They would literally just go away from him at times in games, and it was a debate: was he healthy? Were they doing load management because the team was just a dumpster fire?
Yeah, why bother putting all those carries on him if they're not going to win?
You have most running backs miss 25% of the season. They're finishing the year around 700 yards. Saquon was still over 1,000 yards rushing with I think he had another 500 receiving. So you prorate Saquon's numbers out, he's over 2,000, and he's probably right behind CMC as the most productive back in the league.
It's going to happen, guys. You have not seen the best of Saquon Barkley. I guarantee it.
Hey, Dynasty owners, everybody falling all over yourselves real quick. Everybody falling all over yourselves to get CMC. You could buy Saquon real low from an ignorant owner right now. So that's the move I'd be trying to make in Dynasty ball right now, not trying to scoop CMC at the top of his value.
Right, and I get where CT was going with that, right? You got a guy, so you shore up your front line, you protect your new quarterback, you give your running back some running room. So fine, you go Thomas, but then you go safety. I'm just pleasantly surprised that in a draft class that's this deep at wide receiver, there's not a single wide receiver taken for the Giants this year. And I know, Mike, you said you're not upset about the guys that you have, but I think there was guys that were available even at 36 that were better than what you guys are working with right now.
Absolutely. Yeah.
For sure.
But
100%.
The only reason I like what they did at 36 is once you see the entire picture. For the first time since he's been the GM, it looks like Gettleman had a picture, looked at it, and stuck to the plan. He built up that front line. I saw a post today, he got 950 pounds of protection for Daniel Jones. He got a guy that's going to play center. He's got his future right tackle, his future left tackle. By the way, these 2 guys, the tackles they drafted, lived together and trained together in the offseason. They consider each other brothers. You want to talk about chemistry? That's built-in chemistry right there. That's amazing.
It seems like Joe
McKinney,
Judge values that sort of thing as well. So
he said it a million times. He doesn't want individual stars. He wants a 53-man team, which that's from the Bill Belichick school right there. That's the Bible according to Belichick. He wants guys to play. What's up?
What about? Go ahead, Manny.
No, you go.
CT, go.
What about this? These rumors that we heard leading up to the draft about interviewing Justin Herbert. Was that just like a smoke screen, or was that just light somebody's ass on fire? What was that?
That was
we talked long and hard about this, me and Mike, because Gettleman, like the whole thing with Gettleman is he scouts in person the guy he's going to draft. And when Herbert was still undecided about coming out, Gettleman was at the Oregon games. He was at the pro days. He was doing everything.
This is 2 years ago, not this offseason, but 2 off seasons ago.
And then Herbert decided that he wanted to play a year with his brother, who's a tight end at Oregon, stayed in. And that's when the Giants had to pivot. So I think Gettleman had decided on quarterback at 6. And decided Herbert was that quarterback. And Herbert didn't come out.
So he went Jones.
I think it was a smokescreen. For a while, I was convinced he was going to take Herbert and try to trade Jones, pull a Cliff Kingsbury.
I wasn't buying it.
By the way, did he buy the house from Entourage? Like, did you guys see that? Jesus.
Oh my God. So overall, Giants, how did they do in this draft? Do you guys think they won the draft, lost the draft, didn't make that many? Like, do you think? What are your expectations for this coming season? In other words, do you think that they've made enough of an impact to finally give us a respectable season?
I can tell you right now, my view of it, I believe they had a good draft. They did something that I've been wanting them to do for the last couple seasons. They focused on making the offensive line better. I'm not saying that you just have to draft all the offensive linemen and throw them like darts and hope that one of them sticks. But it seems like, just like John said, they went in with a plan and they actually stuck to it rather than getting, ooh, look, a flashy wide receiver. Ooh, look, Albert O, the tight end, he's fast. I should go get him. Like, no. He kept his eye on the prize and drafted the guys that he wanted. I think that he ended up with some value picks towards the end of the draft. There's this linebacker they got from Penn State. He's a player. I like him a lot. A couple of guys they got in the 7th round are again, value picks. So we'll see how much they end up actually contributing to this year's roster. Probably not, but you never know.
You're going to have 2 guys contribute this year, maybe 3 with Cam Brown. Pert is going to be a guy that's he might get some injury time play, but
right. Not Mike.
He's more of a project guy. Thomas is going to step right in. Thomas might even start at left tackle this year. They might slide Solder to right. I don't see that happening, but it's a possibility. McKinney was talked about as a top 10 guy. It's very similar to Landon Collins when he came out.
You could argue that the Cowboys should have drafted him over Lamb.
Yeah. I mean, are you going to knock the Cowboys for that? I mean,
no.
Look what they made that offensive juggernaut. But like, this is a guy that was a top 10 guy on a lot of boards. You got him at 36. So I don't blame him for taking McKinney at 36. I think that's his best pick of the draft. If I had to grade the draft, I would say B- because he addressed a lot of needs, but he didn't. The Giants are a team that need guys that are getting on the field now. He didn't get a lot of those guys. He got 1.5, maybe 2. Because McKinney will be on the field. Thomas will be on the field. How much will McKinney be on the field? And Pert might get on the field. Cam Brown might get on the field. But these are guys that top 4 rounds. You want them on the field right away. And I just don't see that happening with all those guys.
All right. So we have some Giants fans, but I feel like we have more Jet fans that listen to the show. So hit us with the Jet news. Get them as good as you want. We don't like the Jets over here in this. We laugh at them from afar. Just give it to us straight, guys. Did the Jets have a good draft? I know they drafted a monster in Becton. His dad's a monster too. Could tell that that food bill by the end of the month is probably extremely high to feed that family.
Nobody likes to bury the Jets more than I do. And first off, I just want to call your bluff. You have a lot of Jets fans don't exist. Like their claim to fame is Fireman Ed. He was a Miami Dolphins fan for the first 55 years of his life. So Jets fans are like Mets fans. They don't really exist.
I agree.
They're the Easter Bunny, right? So that said, I like the Becton pick. I like the Mims pick. You start getting a little dicey at Ashton Davis, Zuniga, Perrine, another
Perrine.
running back. Does anybody know if he's related to Samaje?
He is. It's his cousin.
It's his cousin. All right, so then we could say that's a terrible pick.
He just got dropped.
Click.
That's it.
But again, the Jets, a very vanilla draft. They didn't make great picks. They didn't make awful picks. They kind of stayed right down that best player available path, and I think they got some pretty solid guys.
The first wide receiver of the draft goes off the board exactly one pick after Becton gets drafted at 11. That's Ruggs going to Oakland at 12. So the Jets had their opportunity
By the
to
way,
draft
shocker.
anyone.
If you would have told me Ruggs and Rager would have went off the board before
CD?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, my best friend is a huge Eagles fan, and he was like, I can't tell you what he was thinking when he saw CeeDee Lamb was still there past 15, I think it was, or whatever it was.
He thought the fact that they let Dallas jump them and get him, I just –
because I don't know, something with a cornerback. But let me ask you something. So if I have a rabid Jet fan texting me saying that they had the best draft, I respond –
hypothetically speaking here.
This really happened, but now I can go back and be like, you're full of shit.
He should start calling his friends and family and scheduling an intervention.
Well, I am his family. So.
Schedule.
I'll set that up.
Get on the phone with Auntie and tell her we might have a problem with so-and-so because he is delusional. They did not by any means have the best draft at all.
I'm just going to throw this out there.
They didn't have the best draft in that division. They might have the third best draft in that division.
Exactly. So I'm going to ask.
Miami and Buffalo both had better drafts.
No, Miami killed it.
New England for the first time ever shit the bed. But again,
I think
probably struck gold everywhere.
I think the question that everybody's really wants to ask is, who is Jake Fromm, and should I be happy that the Bills took him?
Jimmy, you answer this one.
Yes, Jim. Please, man, give it to me straight.
Who's Jake Fromm? Quite frankly, well, so my son likes to say he's Jake Fromm from State Farm.
State Farm, yeah.
Wow, that was an awful joke.
Yeah, I'm just saying. It was an 11-year-old. What are you gonna do? Honestly, I wish he was the guy that the Eagles would have taken in the 4th or 5th round, right? Because they didn't need to get douchebag at 2. They should have taken a linebacker at 2.
Whoa.
And in the 3rd round.
You can't call Jalen Hurts douchebag. Jalen Hurts is a good dude.
It's not his fault.
Yo, this is a kid that
I agree.
Was a national championship quarterback, lost his job to Tua, and instead of bitching, he was his backup and helped train him, and then transferred and had a hell of a year. Like the guy.
Listen, I understand.
The Eagles made a terrible pick. Let's put it that way.
He was a Heisman runner-up.
Don't put that on the kid.
I agree.
Don't put that on Jalen.
You're supposed to be talking about Jake Fromm and the Bills.
All right. Anyway.
Yes.
So
that's what you get when you go to these cheesesteak eating motherfuckers.
I know. Let's see. But the point is, it was game and shape. We talked about this earlier, right? What that does is it keeps him from going to New England. So it doesn't necessarily matter who he is. What matters is who needed him. And now New England's stuck with what they had, Stedman, and that's what they'll have to roll with unless they pull the trigger on one of the guys that's out there like a Cam Newton or something like that.
They're not going to get Cam Newton.
So that pick, so picking him was more to not let him go to the Patriots.
That's exactly what it was.
100% a move to keep him away from the Patriots.
Because he is not even close to the same quarterback that Josh Allen is. So if Josh Allen goes down, you're talking about 2 quarterbacks that run completely different offensive systems. It makes no sense to draft him as the backup.
That makes me feel better, though.
Now, here's the thing with with Fromm, right? This kid has been on TV since he was 11 years old. Little League World Series. Then MTV did that high school football series, and it happened to be the high school that he was quarterbacking for. And then he went to Georgia. His freshman year goes to the national champ. This guy's been in the spotlight since he was 12 years old, 11, 12 years old. Like, so going now, it's nothing new for him. Yeah, he's a little lacking in some of the areas, but it's all teachable stuff. It's ball security, it's arm angle, it's progression. It's stuff that can be taught. He has the physical ability to be a great quarterback. And remind you, you think of 21 years ago when they took that little chubby, tall, lanky kid out of Michigan that was splitting time with the Yankees' third baseman.
Yep.
What ended up happening there? So I think what the Bills did by keeping him away from New England and their developmental system was great. And now they can ship that guy off for draft picks to one of these quarterback-hungry teams. So when Joe Burrow gets buried 75 times this year and he's gun shy next year, and the Bengals want to trade for a quarterback, the Bills are going to be like, hey, we got a guy, national championship quarterback as well.
That's what I'm talking
good
about.
Arm angles. Good. He's learning. He's studied under a quarterback of similar ability. Here you go. It's something that I love the pick by. I love what the Bills did there. And not only that, right up the Patriots' ass. You know.
Let's go, man. Let's go. I'm fired up.
Do you think they overpaid for
that
Diggs?
and Epinesa? Oh, you guys are gonna love that dude. You're gonna love that dude.
Once I saw what the Texans gave away for Hopkins, and then I saw what we gave away for Diggs, man, I was like, what the hell is going on? But
the fact that Bill O'Brien was allowed to conduct this draft for the Texans after what he did with Hopkins is
crazy.
Suspect.
What Bill O'Brien did with that trade with DeAndre Hopkins was madness. I mean, it's something that we
I would have vetoed that trade in a fantasy league. I would have vetoed it. We don't veto
anything.
And we don't veto anything. Like, yeah. Like, he literally traded Danny Woodhead for Adam Thielen, and we didn't veto it. Like, shit like that is just goes down in fantasy leagues. This would have been vetoed. Like, David Undone Johnson for DeAndre Hopkins. Come on.
Unbelievable. So let's bring this home, fellas. Who won the draft in the entire NFL? Who lost the draft?
Jimmy boy, lead us off.
Oh, can I start with the losers?
Yeah.
Listen, I don't think Eagles are total losers. I think there's things that they should have done differently, and I would have loved to have seen. Obviously, I don't get the quarterback at the second pick, but fortunately for the Eagles, the Green Bay Packers did a worse job, right? So they not only, like we've talked, 3 years now doing these shows, we talk about how Aaron Rodgers needs an offensive line. He's running around like crazy, and he's trying to coach rookie running back, wide receivers on the field with a hobbled half a leg.
Mm-hmm.
All you got to do is get him an extra wide receiver, someone to be opposite of Devontae Adams, take pressure off Devontae Adams, and get him some offensive linemen. And they didn't do any of that. Again, not only did they not do that, they take Jordan Love with the first pick, and they take a backup running back, or maybe the starter, I don't even know, with A.J. Dillon in the second round, where they could have had a wide receiver.
A.J. Dillon has so many miles on his legs too, man. Just
I don't get it. So to me, they're the team that for the third year in a row, they knew exactly what they needed to do, and then went ahead and didn't do it.
Not one wide receiver in probably one of the most prolific wide receiver classes we've ever seen.
And you're not even talking about second round quarterback. They traded up to draft a quarterback.
Yeah.
Didn't let him fall to him. It wasn't like, oh, well, he was there, so we took him. Like, so you piss off your franchise quarterback by trading up to draft a guy that's I like Jordan Love. He's not NFL ready, but he would have been there when they picked again. I'm sorry. That was a screw you, Aaron Rodgers pick. It really was. And there's a lack of loyalty, and then,
Packers losers. Give us the winners. Or the winner.
Jimmy, who's the
Giants,
winner?
Man. The Giants, come on.
No.
You're right division, wrong team.
Yeah.
I have the Cowboys.
Right division, wrong team. You're saying Cowboys. Right, that's it. You're right, John.
I have the Cowboys winning this draft. I mean, people are killing them for the Lamb pick. Why the hell would you do that? I mean, you just made this team a boat race. It's just –
It doesn't matter if your defense can stop anybody if you can score almost 50 points a game, and that's what they've just set up. I mean,
well, it does a couple of things. One, it keeps him from the Eagles, who needed him. They needed to move up and go get him, and it basically puts the season on Dak to go, listen, you no longer have any excuses. You have an offensive line. You have one of the best running backs in the league, and
you have three receivers that on most teams will be number ones.
Yeah, and so if you can't find someone to get the ball to at any given moment, then that's on you, Dak. So I like what they did there.
Comes down to Dak.
I have the Cowboys. I'm going back to your division, CT. I'm going with the Dolphins too. The Dolphins I thought the Dolphins hit on everything they did. They got one of my favorite linemen, because I expect him to go a little bit later. I was hoping the Giants would get him in the second. Austin Jackson out of USC. He's a big guy, good footwork, good hands. He's strong. You draft to it, and then you get the left tackle that's going to protect him the rest of his career. Then you go out, you grab the corner they took. I can't say his name. Ichabod Crane. That's what we're going to call him. Might have gone a little bit early, but it's a luxury pick there, because you have that extra third first round pick. You could jump early and get a position of need, which they did. Then you go interior line on a couple picks. You go interior offensive line. You got a good safety. I just feel like they didn't really – after Tua, it wasn't flash. It was all substance with them straight through the draft. It was all – I mean, a team like they are, everything's a need, but they stuck to it, and they went best position at position of need as they went down the draft. I just thought the Dolphins did very well every time they were on the clock of putting that top player available into perspective of what they needed on that roster.
I want to call out two teams just real quick. We don't have to go in depth on them. I thought Indy had a great draft. I like the running back they added. I like the wide receiver they added. That's Jonathan Taylor, who is number one on a lot of people's running back boards. Michael Pittman wasn't a number one wide receiver on a lot of people's boards, but this is a very large and very fast wide receiver.
24.
Right. So
draft.
Then there's also Jacob Eason, who, I mean, I'm not saying that he's the heir apparent, but it's cool that he'll get to sit behind Rivers, watch him play, and if it works out, he'll get to move up and have a chance at that system. Indy.
I think they went with Eason just because he was there. I don't think that was a plan. I don't think they were looking because he.
It's possible, but listen, it worked out in their favor. You were the one that told me to look out for Jacob Eason. So if you're gonna take a chance, it's a day 3 quarterback. Not a big deal.
Exactly. It wasn't a day 2, day 1 quarterback.
Denver and Oakland, not so much. I mean, listen, Oakland had an okay draft. It wasn't amazing. I don't really like the cornerback that they took in the
Oakland.
first round.
I thought Oakland had a terrible draft.
But the thing I want to point out is that you can see that the AFC West did everything they could to keep up with the champs. All right, because Denver and Oakland took fast wide receivers. Judy, KJ Hamler, both going to Denver. Albert O, the big tight end, to play alongside Noah Fant. It's not going to hurt his value. Keep drafting him. And then Oakland took, Ruggs, who was by far probably the fastest wide receiver in the class.
Biggest reach around one. First receiver he was first receiver off the board, right?
I agree with you, and I'm not saying that Oakland's necessarily a winner. I'm just saying that's
the wide receiver 3 on his college team, where the best receiver on the team came out in the same draft, went before that receiver. Just put that out there. That's absurd.
Just saying, it's interesting to see how those two teams decided to handle the Kansas City Chiefs, and that's what they decided to do.
I think Oakland's best pick was Bryan Edwards, and you're talking about what was that, their 4th or 5th draft pick? Ruggs was a reach. Arnett was a reach. Bowden was definitely a reach. They went
back-to-back wide receivers in the 2nd round. Bowden and
Bowden is technically a running back. He's one of those guys. He's like Cordell Patterson. They play all over the field. He's listed as a running back. These gimmicky guys, jack of all trade, master of none. That's basically what they are. Dude, I thought Oakland shit the bed. I thought the only thing worse than Oakland's drafts was John Gruden having their draft strategy on a whiteboard on live TV.
Behind them.
I mean, that was just idiotic.
I missed that.
Yeah. Every time they shot the Gruden, he's got the team's entire draft strategy laid out on a whiteboard, standing right behind him. I mean,
there was one more winner that I want to bring up, and it's probably the biggest one. Every fan of football, every fan of sports. I don't know how necessary this really was in real life, but this couldn't have come at a better time.
1,000,000% necessary.
Yeah. I don't know how you guys feel, but
come on, think about the emotional drop off you had today, knowing that that's it. Now they either need to get back to real sports.
Yeah,
that's it. They need to get back to real sports.
Well, we don't even know if it's going to come back at this point.
I don't think we're going to see anything this year, boys. I think after the New Year's when we're going to start seeing things start to trickle back. I think we're going to see NHL and NBA start January 10th. It's going to be awful.
That's depressing.
We're not going to get a baseball season this year, I don't think.
I was starting to feel hopeful because Cuomo's talking about hopefully seeing New York sports back up, seeing baseball back in Yankee Stadium and in Citi Field. And you had that ESPN article come out today that the MLB season is a matter of when, not if. And we just did an entire podcast being super positive. But thanks for bringing us down, guys.
Hey, listen, they were the hotheads, so they're not the honey pot. I mean, we're just
the hotheads. Yeah.
It's been a very difficult time, but I mean, the NFL draft was amazing. The only thing I wish they did different, I wish ESPN didn't make it tragedy porn where every time they announced a pick, they had to announce the worst thing that's ever happened to these kids, which I thought was awful.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's like, oh, so-and-so's drafted. His brother was struck by lightning playing Little League Baseball.
And
Is that real?
So happy for him. Yeah.
I didn't understand. I'm not a professional, TV producer or whatever, but I didn't understand two things. Why they cut straight to the player after the pick was made, because they were on a 20-second delay.
Clearly delayed, too.
They were not excited at all. They were just like sitting there texting or whatever.
Right.
That's the first thing. So that was kind of anticlimactic. And the second thing was you'd see in the bottom corner of the screen, the pick is in, and it would take like 5 minutes to see what the pick was. I'm like, Jesus Christ, just give me the pick already. Like, we don't have to hear the whole story. If you get the pick,
it's
cut
always
the
like
story,
that,
move
though.
on.
Even
They
when
had
they're
to get all
doing it
their
live.
they had to get all their ad hits in.
Yeah.
Hey, you put something about the 20-second delay, and I'm like, yeah. So everybody that's seeing their favorite team draft a guy, and he's just sitting there like, meh, texting with his buddies, like, oh, he doesn't want to be here at all. Like, shit. What are we
That's
gonna do?
exactly what I thought.
I honestly felt like that. I mean, I felt like no one, like no one.
Nobody wanted to
where
be
they
on
were
the Eagles, Jim.
Yeah.
So
No, but
Overall, though, it was produced really well. It was, I thought they did a good job overall. Those are just my two little nitpicks. I tend to
except for
nitpick.
Trey Wingo's suit was hideous. It was
Yeah,
like the
you're right.
reverse Yankees uniform, navy blue,
Yeah.
white pinstripes. But was he wearing Keds? He was wearing some Velcro Keds, dude. Like,
God.
come on,
Man.
ESPN, you're better than that.
I
Listen,
aspire to live in Cliff Kingsbury's house one day, man. What a pad.
Oh,
You know,
Oh,
he
dude.
told them to put it on wide zoom, bro. He's like, get the whole
Absolutely.
thing.
Yo, he was sitting there like that dude from that speaker commercial back in the day. He puts his feet up and it just starts blowing the scarf off the back of his head.
yeah. The Max, what
But
was
what
it?
you
Maxwell?
don't know is
Maxwell?
it's like
Yeah.
it's only like a 3-room house, right? It's just that's it, and then off to the side there's a bedroom, right?
Yeah,
He's not as bald. Listen,
Well,
Jerry
that room
Jones-
he was
Jerry
sitting in is bigger
Jones
than
dropped the
my
mic on
6-room
everybody.
house. So
right?
Oh, he was on his
Jerry
yacht,
Jones-
right?
Yeah, he dropped the mic on everybody, dude. The room he was in on his yacht is as big as the ground floor of my entire house.
yeah,
so,
well, Jared's wife when
True.
they drafted Lamb, crop shot
Insanity.
the entire nation. So that was unexpected
All
So,
right.
and not
You gotta-
welcomed.
wait, let's get a screenshot of that and just put it as a thumbnail of
Thumbnail.
this episode.
All
Great
right,
term
so
for that.
you guys can check the Hotheads podcast wherever podcasts are available. Follow them on Twitter at Hotheads Podcast. Hotheads with a Z, by the way. And thanks for coming on, guys. This is awesome.
thanks
Yeah, thanks for having us, guys. Always
Thank
Thanks, guys.